Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight's video. Thank you for those of you that sent me messages today. I really appreciate hearing from you. Hopefully, you can join me live tonight on this topic that is very near and dear to my heart. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sabrina Rising, and I am a self-mastery coach and intuitive guide, and I have been guiding people to find deep and sustainable inner peace for almost 2 decades now with much joy. And it is my pleasure to be here with you and to share my knowledge and the things that I've learned over the years of facilitating and over the years of healing myself. So all the work that I teach is very much a result of my own inner work journey. And I feel very passionate about talking about, of course, all things healing, especially this topic that we're going to dive into tonight. Tonight, we're talking about how to heal your anxiety forever. Okay, so this is, of course, my opinion. I'm not a medical professional, so this is, coming from an alternative healing modality perspective, and obviously, this anxiety is something that I struggled with, which is why I feel like I can talk about it from a place of authority and integrity. I want to share this process with you because it's helped me immensely in my own life, and it's helped so many people that I've worked with over the course of my career. So it's my humble opinion that anxiety is not a feeling. So if you're someone who struggles with anxiety, or if it's an ongoing issue, a recurring pattern in your own life, or something that gets triggered often for you, please keep an open mind and hear me out. It is my opinion that it is not an emotion. Anxiety is a systemic response to some deeper, more intense, unfulfilled, unresolved emotions that we might be carrying. It's like the body's way to cope with the fact that there are some really deep feelings that we don't want to fully experience and we don't want to feel. So think about a cork in a bottle, right? So that's what anxiety is. It's kind of like stuffing down your deeper, more intense feelings, like deep fear or deep anger or grief or um, uh, sadness that you don't want to necessarily experience that. And so anxiety is the way that your body says, okay, I'm going to shut down and I'm going to stay in my shallow breathing so I can protect myself from not going into those deeper emotions. Okay. And anxiety can be something that plagues us our whole life. It can feel like something that, you are, doomed to live with. It's just a condition that we often tend to want to seek to medicate or to numb or cure in some fashion with some external medicine or mood altering substance. And there's consequences to that. Right. So it's the first thing to remember is that your feelings, especially in inner work, and if you're on a healing journey, your feelings are always valid. Right? Whatever you're experiencing is valid. And when anxiety kicks in, it's your body's way of telling you that something has been triggered, something deeper has been triggered that you've trained yourself not to feel. You've conditioned yourself not to go there because it's not safe to feel your deeper feelings. And this is something that is, programmed in childhood. In early childhood, usually between the ages of 0 to 6, this is always what I'm referencing when I talk about early childhood. This is when our beliefs are formed. This is when the relationship to ourselves starts to take shape. We start to make decisions about who we are, what we can have, what we can't have, how to be, if we're lovable, if we're not lovable, and how to cope, essentially. And we mimic our coping skills. We mimic everything based on what we see our parents do. And so if you had parents that didn't know how to regulate their nervous system, didn't know how to take responsibility for their own triggers, their own reactions, then you're not going to know how to cope with your own feelings, right? You're not going to have those tools. And if you grew up in an environment that was very anxious, right? It was very unsafe, and there was a lot of volatile emotions. There was a feeling of being out of control, or a feeling of fear that was kind of, in the background. Keep in mind that as children, we're so sensitive to energy. right? So the energy of your environment is really affecting your ability to feel safe and to relax. And so this is something that is conditioned in childhood, and then we carry it throughout the course of our lives unconsciously. Right? We're not aware of how this is affecting us in childhood, how we are being programmed, if you will, unconsciously. And this is something we play out in our lives. And so you could have no episodes of what is referred to as anxiety, which can be, can look like the symptoms of anxiety. I'll just say can look like shortness of breath. It can look like, there's my thumbs up. It can look like headaches. It can look like, it can feel like your heart is hurting, like almost like a heart attack. It can feel debilitating, right? It can be very extreme. In fact, sometimes big episodes of anxiety leave us paralyzed, like we can't take a step forward. Sometimes we lose the ability to vocalize, and to simply just ground, right? We don't have the ability to ground when we're feeling dysregulated. That's why we're dysregulated. So it's important to understand that this feeling, this experience of anxiety usually gets triggered by some kind of event in our lives, right? So we can have no experience of anxiety for most of our young life or young adult life, or even into early adulthood, and then something will trigger this feeling of anxiety or this experience of anxiety, and then all of a sudden we start to panic. It can be, perhaps even in childhood, something can happen to trigger an experience of systemic anxiety, and we start to grind our teeth, right? And this is an anxious response because we don't have coping skills to deal with the deeper feelings. We can start to find ways, perhaps, if you bite your fingernails, or if you have some other type of nervous habit, this is a way that your nervous system is trying to soothe itself. So these are all symptoms of an anxious systemic response to deeper unresolved feelings, as I mentioned in the beginning. So as we look at what anxiety is, the first thing to remember is that it's keeping us in our chest, right? So anxiety is again letting me know that I'm in some kind of fight or flight response, right? I'm in something has been triggered in me where I don't feel safe, or perhaps it's bringing up old feelings that I've tried to stuff down and don't want to feel. And so the first thing to do, this is, I promised I would teach you this in 4 easy steps. The first thing to do is simply become aware of your feelings. Okay. So again, anxiety is keeping me in my chest. It means I'm breathing shallow. I'm not taking deep belly breaths. I'm on my chest response, which is creating fight or flight in my body. Right. So now I want to run. I want to protect myself. I want to get out of the situation. I want to flee. Right. And this is natural. So many of us experience this fight or flight response when we are feeling triggered. And of course, our breathing gets more and more shallow. And what happens when we stay in this shallow breath is that, we can become hysterical, right? We can actually amplify this experience of anxiety, and we can start to spiral out in our emotions. Okay. So again, if, this is something that you struggle with, and, for some of us, we are, leaning on medications, or we are leaning on, other types of substances to help us manage our anxiety. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm not a medical professional. However, I do feel very passionate that your body's natural intelligence is trying to bring your awareness into something deeper that's happening for you. And so the medication might soothe the symptoms, but it's not actually dealing with the root causes. It's not actually dealing with what's really going on when you're experiencing anxiety. And it's not allowing you to go deeper into your body so that you can really heal. What we don't want necessarily it's great to be able to manage something in the moment, but that doesn't solve the problem. We never actually get to heal it and move on from being an anxious person, or a person who suffers with anxiety, right? So, wherever you are in your healing journey, if you're someone who takes medication, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Just keep in mind that it's not actually healing you. It's just helping you manage a symptom. It's like putting a band-aid on it, right? It's not helping you go into the deeper experiences of what it is that you might be resisting feeling, whatever it is that you might not want to feel. And this is very important to be aware of. Okay, we want to at first the first sign of an anxious response is my body is trying to tell me that it's feeling dysregulated. I'm dysregulated. Something has been triggered that's much deeper for me. I'm being invited into a deeper process. So the first step to healing your anxiety forever is simply to develop awareness. Being aware that you're in this response. I'm feeling anxiety, right? Most of us, we know what we're feeling when we're feeling it in the moment. We know when we're feeling scared. We know when we're feeling angry or sad or lonely or all of those feelings. So being able to develop that awareness gives us the ability to then make a choice on how we're going to respond, right? How we're going to deal with those feelings. So this first step is developing awareness. When you start to feel anxious, when you start to feel shortness of breath, if you start to feel your muscles cramp up and your body contract and your heart get tight, and perhaps you get sweaty, or perhaps you get fidgety, or perhaps you do some of the other nervous habits that I mentioned earlier, you know that you're in an anxiety response, that your body has created this systemic response to a perceived threat, right? There's something that's being triggered that says I'm not safe. And it's really important that we understand that, what we're protecting ourselves from is these deeper feelings, right? And ultimately, the primary emotion that's always being activated whenever we're in any kind of reaction, anxiety is no different, is fear, right? We're afraid. There's some kind of threat happening. And so it can be a threat to our physical well-being. It can be a threat to our mental or emotional well-being. Whatever the threat is, it's creating this response. And so developing awareness is the first step. The second step, and this is the antidote to anxiety for those of you that are struggling with it, is learning how to breathe. This can seem like such a basic thing, learning how to breathe diaphragmatically. The diaphragmatic breath is something I've been teaching in my programs for many, many, many years. It's a very simple technique that anyone can do. In fact, if you watch little children, they do this naturally. They breathe in and out of their bellies naturally because they haven't learned fear yet as much as we've learned it, right? They haven't been as conditioned as adults have, and so they just do it naturally. They breathe in and out of their bellies because this is our natural flow, is to breathe in and out of our bellies when we're free to be fully self-expressed, to explore our world, when we don't have pressure or stress or external influences, coming down on us, when we don't feel, obligated or accountable, or when we feel an environment of zero pressure, it's much easier to breathe into our bellies. And so because now we're working backwards and we're learning how to undo this conditioning and relieve the symptom of anxiety, so now we can go into the deeper feelings and ultimately heal this systemic reaction, we want to train ourselves to breathe into the diaphragm. It's very simple. You put your hand on your belly, you take a deep, deep breath. Belly out, exhale, let the belly drop naturally. Breathing in and out of the diaphragm. I even calmed down a little bit when I just did that. So breathing into the belly, exhale, let the belly drop naturally. And, of course, this is something that I've been teaching for a really long time, and it's so, so helpful. Even just to take a few deep belly breaths in any situation will help ground you. It'll put you back into that relax and digest mode. So chest breathing, which is what we're used to breathing in our chest, right? Think about the way we've been raised and how we live our lives and the pace that we've been conditioned to. It's go, go, go. We have a tight schedule. We have to be on time. We, as human beings, especially in North American culture, we tend to pack our days. We tend to wear busy as a badge of honor. We tend to overstack our schedules. And I believe, especially as a healer, I believe we do that so that we don't have the space to feel what we've been suppressing most of our lives, right? So when it's interesting how we do this, and if you're someone who's always busy all the time, I invite you to look at why you keep yourself so busy, right? Why is it so difficult to just be and do nothing and not have something to accomplish or feel productive or feel like you're worthy of this life. And for so many of us, we feel like we're only worthy of being here if we're producing and accomplishing and seeking and getting approval from our external environment. So I invite you to really look at that, because there's so many ways which we set ourselves up for this systemic response, which we are calling anxiety, right? And so if you, again, look at society, we look at, all the different coffee shops that are, all, lined up next to each other. And we drink our coffee so we can keep going. We can keep going instead of listening to our bodies and tuning into our natural rhythms and allowing ourselves to rest, allowing ourselves to go slow and to integrate and process our emotions, and assimilate our experiences so that we can feel grounded in the life that we're living, right? And because of the way that our society is set up, so many of us are under so much pressure to get our basic needs met, that these conditions are not favorable to a life of inner peace and just going with the flow and being able to relax and being able to just feel calm and centered in all situations. We actually have to develop this skill, which is a skill that we can easily have, right? If you look at little kids, they breathe in and out of their bellies, right? They're relaxed. They're not under any pressure or under any stress. We learn pressure as we are raised by our caregivers and raised in this environment, in this North American culture, raised to succeed and achieve and outdo ourselves. And it's not necessarily conducive to human wellness. Right. And I am a byproduct of that. I had major panic attacks and major issues with, this systemic response we're referring to as anxiety. And I was able to, heal myself simply by learning how to breathe and learning how to ground myself and learning how to engage in some positive self-talk, which we'll talk about next. So the first step is to develop awareness, right? Developing awareness of what's going on in your body, tuning into your body is essential. Okay. And if you're someone who struggles with anxiety, again, staying away from mood altering substances, staying away from stimulants, staying away from anything that could trigger your nervous system, that could pick up the pace for you when your body doesn't want that. It actually naturally wants to slow down so it can learn to relax. Okay. So there's things we can do on a physical level to help set us up for success. Okay. And again, awareness will allow us to take those actions and to be proactive when it comes to managing our feelings. So the first step is awareness. The second step is the diaphragmatic breath, which we've just done together, breathing in and out of the belly. You can do some research on diaphragmatic breathing and how amazing it is for calming down the central nervous system. It's, like I said, it's a very basic thing. There's some other fancier techniques like vagus nerve reset and so on. Those work great, but this is just something super basic that you can do yourself in any moment. You can be in your car, you can be, in a meeting, you can be at work, you can be in the park, you can be at the gym, wherever you are, where you're experiencing this level of panic, is to just bring yourself into the breath. Put your hand on your belly. Sometimes it's helpful to put the other hand on your heart and breathing in and out. Okay. And as we're doing this, right, it's very, very important that we are learning to self-soothe, right? We're learning to meet our feelings with love, right? We're learning presence, because fear is usually triggered because we're either afraid of something that's happened or it's already happened and we're afraid of it happening again, right? So we're either living in the past or worried about the future. When we start to breathe diaphragmatically, we're literally moving into relax and digest mode, which means our bodies are loosening, opening up. We can process our feelings. We can assimilate our food. We can sleep better. We can literally relax and digest. Okay. So as we move into relax and digest, we're literally grounding. And with the self-soothing part, which is the third step, is reminding yourself that you are safe, right? That you're completely safe and loved and all is well in this moment, right? Really being proactive and meeting your feelings with compassion. This is where we must learn to soothe ourselves. And for those of you that are that have trouble doing that, or that might be struggling with doing that, in the beginning, it's okay to have support, right? It's okay to have someone to lean into, or a person to call, or, it can be a guide or a trusted friend. Someone who truly loves you and can hold unconditionally loving space for you is wonderful to lean into. That's okay in the beginning. Ultimately, we want to be self-sufficient and self-reliant, right? So you can practice this with someone that you care about, especially if anxiety is a big issue in your life. Practice leaning into a friend. I have many clients that will call me and say, I'm having a panic attack, or I'm feeling unsafe, or I'm feeling super triggered, in the early stages of working together. And my job is to hold the frequency, hold the space of unconditional love and, and compassion, and, reminding them that they're safe, and breathing together, whether it's over the phone or a call, and so on. And just really grounding. And in that practice, we are learning to do this for ourselves, right? This is so important, that learning to self-soothe is going to remind the little kid inside of you that you are safe with me, right? I got you. I got your back. I've got you, I've wrapped you up in love. I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. And this is very, very important, because we learn to trust ourselves. We learn to feel safe in our own bodies. We learn to feel self-sufficient. And this allows us to feel more confident in situations. So the third step is really just soothing yourself, meeting your feelings with unconditional love and compassion, and not judging your emotions, right? Because when we judge our feelings, we tend to resist them, and this can amplify whatever the reaction is. So this is the third step. And the fourth step is just engaging in some positive self-talk. It doesn't have to be, a whole big list of affirmations, although I do love my affirmations. There is a place for those. In the moment, if you're feeling panic, you can just simply ground your feet plant your feet firmly on the ground. As you're breathing, just acknowledging your experience and giving yourself unconditional love and support. And you can just say, I'm safe right here, right now. Right. And there is a method that's very popular as well, which is just about, what can I feel? What can I hear? What can I see? What can I taste? Just to bring yourself into the present moment. Right. For me, it's more helpful to close my eyes, so I can just kind of engage in this inward gaze and just keep my hand on my heart and remind myself that I'm safe and I'm loved and all is well right here, right now. It's very important to use those words. I'm safe and loved. All is well right here, right now. Right here, right now is soothing and grounding, and allows us to land into the present moment. It allows us to be here fully and to relax as we're engaging again in our diaphragmatic breathing. We're able to become fully present. And then all of a sudden, the episode has dissipated, right? The anxiety has lifted, and perhaps now we're present to some bigger feelings, right? And this is okay. We want that. The way that we heal this systemic response is by digging deeper and going, okay, what's really going on here? Notice when you have these panic attacks or anxiety, attacks, whatever's preceding that, what's triggering the response, right? There is something that is recalling either an event from your past, or something that you've suppressed, or something that you just are avoiding and don't want to deal with. And learning to, as you do this with practice, over time, you'll be able to go deeper into whatever it is you're suppressing, so that you can fully feel it. And I say this all the time, whether you're watching one of my videos or you're working with me one-on-one, in the early stages, it's really important to have a guide. It's really important to have someone who can walk you through the process of feeling all those intense feelings, getting into your body, getting comfortable with being in your body. So many of us are uncomfortable in our skin, not because we don't necessarily love our bodies, but because it's just not a familiar place, right? It's not a familiar place to just be able to sit and feel and breathe and be quiet, right? For some of us, that can bring up a lot of scary experiences that are suppressed from childhood, right? So it's important to have a guide who can hold this container for you, that can allow you to feel the full range of your emotions, and to meet those emotions with compassion and non-judgment. And when you have someone with you, it can feel safer to do that. So I hope this was helpful. I'll just recap the steps for you. Awareness, breath. Breath is everything. Breath is our connection to source. energy, to source consciousness. It is our connection to a higher power, the universe, God, nature, whatever your label for this power that is greater than us is. To me, they're all synonyms of each other, and it is the one thing that we do naturally that sustains life. Right? You don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to struggle to breathe. The breath is a natural part of the working apparatus, and it is your birthright to be able to use it and allow it to ground you and help you feel safe in any moment. Okay, so the breath is key in this process. Breathing diaphragmatically is something that I teach my students to do every day. Usually we engage in a 20-minute diaphragmatic practice in the morning, and then you're encouraged to breathe that way, learn to breathe that way throughout the day. You'll find it's very, very helpful, especially if you're driving in traffic and so on. I often do it when I'm in traffic, and it's very helpful. And the third part is to just meet your emotions with unconditional love and compassion, and just soothing yourself, learning to soothe yourself and being conscious that that's what you're doing. This is how we take personal responsibility for the quality of our state. And we make a decision, right? We make a decision to love ourselves and to honor the feelings that we're having, to honor the experience that we're having, and to stay in the experience as long as it takes so that we can heal. Right. And be willing to, as you practice this with time, these 4 steps over and over again. I mean, sometimes I have clients that do it throughout the day. I know in the early stages, I was doing it multiple times a day just to be able to learn how to feel and learn how to ground myself and learn how to stay present with my emotions, with the experience I was having, and to meet myself with love. So this is very important. And the 4th step, again, is just some very simple grounding statements. If you want to go deeper into affirmations, you can. If you're just trying to calm yourself down in the moment and teach yourself how to deal with your anxious response, you can just say, it's safe for me to feel. That's one that I like to use as well. Or I'm safe and loved right here, right now. Right here, right now is very anchoring and allows me to stay present. It allows me to stay in this place of self-soothing and grounding for as long as I need to, until this systemic response has passed. So I hope this was helpful. If there's any questions, I will take them. If you want to ask me anything, please do. Those of you that are here with me live. Here we go. I'm still learning how to use this. So. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to your reflections and your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below. I wish you peace and love and healing on your journey, and I'll talk to you soon.